All right, war number 9. War number 9 up against Matrix. And we've got a lot of fights this war, but we've got a lot of Quake fights. So I'll be on path 9A. They didn't ban Quake, which, again, to me, it's just a big mistake. But I'll be using Quake for both of those fights. And then I am going to also be taking this this Gladiator Hulk. I was just checking to see if he was a rank 3 or a rank 4, which would be kind of crazy, but he is not. And I'm going to be taking him with Quake, and then that Warlock on node 24 with Quake, and then I'm on 2B, Mole Man, White Magneto with Apocalypse, and then also Black Panther with Apocalypse. And then I've got 3 mini-bosses, 2 with Quake, and that bastard Hulkbuster on Conflictor. And I learned my lesson. I'm going to be using my rank 3 unawakened White Magneto for that fight, and you'll see how that goes. All right, so these first 3 fights here, we've got Ebony Maw, Colossus on Hazard Shift, and then actually these are 4 fights here in this clip. And then we've got Gladiator Hulk and Warlock on nodes 23 and 24. I have this sped up 3 times normal speed here. So I'm going to have to figure out how to make conversation with myself for the next 3 minutes while you guys enjoy these boring Quake fights. Spoiler, I don't think that I get touched in any of these fights. And unfortunately, I didn't run any suicides, as you guys can see. I think suicides off for this node is smart because had I messed up with suicides, he would have had that crazy fury and just destroyed me. So it was more just like a safety thing. At this point on though, these next 3 fights, including this one, I probably should have at least turned on half suicides with the bleed just to get the fights down faster because these are honestly pretty brutally long. But yeah, so anyway, Colossus, this is a pretty decent node to place him on if you're not banning Quake with this global. But with Quake, it's a complete joke. All right, so this Gladiator Hulk. So there are several good options for this node. Mole Man is a very good option. I actually kind of lobbied to take this fight with Quake since I was already going to be fully boosted and taking, 3 other Quake fights, in the first section and up through the middle minis. And, Quake is so good for Mixmaster just because you literally can just remove the node entirely as long as you can Quake the defender. So, again, it's just, if you're not going to ban Quake, I feel like they should have done a better job of Quake proofing. The other factor is I don't know if this plays into their decisions on who to ban. I know that for us it does, but For Loki has so many YouTubers. I feel like it would be pretty easy for an opposing alliance to, learn pretty quickly who our attacker tendencies are. At least, if we're an alliance that does like to use Quake, I know that there are some alliances in high tier that have moved away from Quake simply because she's slower. But she's just so overpowered, just completely removing nodes and interactions, and if you can Quake, you can take a fight and just completely not have any clue how the node actually works. I just think that it's such a huge mistake to not ban her. But yeah, she's great for Mixmaster. Never have to worry about the combos. She's great here. I do have that dex, but he'll never get to a bar of power, so it won't matter. All right, so mercifully, we are done. We're 4-0 with Quake there, and yeah, so we do have Apocalypse here. Now, obviously, our Apocalypse is going to start this quest with only 1 genetic code. We didn't bring Cable or Kang or anything. And, he's perfect for this path because he gains Disorient immunity, the only champ in the game that can do that. I'm going to gain a Disorient passive on parries on this node. Of course, Mole Man can't shrug my parries because of my ability accuracy reduction. So, yeah, we just want to trigger that that disorient so that we can start gaining the immunity. I'm just kind of waiting it out. It's an 8-second timer there to gain the immunity. Boom, there we go. Throw the SP2 just to do, you know, the damage, the most damage that we can. And with power back boost, we get up to 1.5 bars. And I do throw the SP1 there. I honestly probably should have thrown the SP2 again. I kind of let strike counter, you know, get into my head there a little bit. Like I just instinctively was like, oh, strike counter, boom, I better throw the special. Probably not the right move, especially with recoil, because I am running half suicides here. I wanted to make sure I got bleed immunity for this Black Panther up here. Alright, so anyway, alright, we've got a white Magneto here. This node inflicts disorient on double backdrafts, but so I do have reduced ability accuracy by 70% here, which means that my parries can fail. Like as they did there. I strongly assume the parry, which is a bad decision. But White Mags he's totally fine to take with Apocalypse because you know, you've got your easy ends. You don't have to worry about the unstoppable when he's charging his heavy. And Apocalypse is still going to do damage. Now, you know, his debuffs can fail to apply because of the reduced ability accuracy, but you know, overall, especially with 4 genetic code, really not an issue, and it just kind of worked out. Honestly, they didn't ban Apocalypse, obviously, and that's a really poor path pairing here to put a Mole Man, whom I would argue Apocalypse is probably the best attacker for this path. He's probably the best attacker for Mole Man, other than maybe Omega Red. And White Magneto is just going to automatically give him 4 genetic code when he enters the fight. So it's just very, very confusing. But yeah, I don't know. They made their decisions. They probably had reasons. But all right, so I wanted to make sure that I was, you know, obviously had 4 genetic code for this fight. They were, you know, they gave us the White Magneto, which was great. And Apocalypse, honestly, is perfect for Black Panther too. I mean, Black Panther can't reflect his armor, or his stun, I mean, with his reflective armor because of the Purify. So, I mean, they just lined this path up for Apocalypse. Makes absolutely no sense. But they did it. Alright, so we have 3 minis on the left side here. We've got Cosmic Ghost Rider, a surprisingly pretty good defender, pretty dangerous defender with this global. Magneto is great in this matchup, but I mean, Quake is just, again, just completely removes everything from this matchup. I am keeping on the Bleed Suicide, which is going to actually help quite a bit. Helps with the damage a lot with Quake. If you don't take any blocked hits and you start at 100%, I am running 1 point in Coagulate, but with those in mind, you'll finish a fight at 91%. So I think I had like just slightly below 100% health when I entered this fight, but we're not going to get touched. Oh, we do get touched. No, we don't. We're not going to get touched. All right, so anyway, we're going to get through this, and then the next fight is that Hulkbuster that killed me early in the season. I think War 4. I used Doom stupidly. And then we're going to be quaking that Super Skrull, who is maybe the best, most annoying, most dangerous defender with this global. He will return to, you know, complete mediocrity next season when this global is traded away for Mystic Dispersion. All right, so we are going to throw on the Horseman pre-fight just to. It's really just for the little safety net, the passive unblockable if I screw up at some point. We also, of course, applied guidance. And the plan here, because this node does have, I can't remember what it's called, I never can, but if you repeat the same basic attack twice, they'll get a prowess, and that prowess is massive. So we're going to be doing parry, medium, heavy the entire time. Parry, medium, heavy. And then our SP1 inflicts a debuff. Our SP2 inflicts a different debuff. So we're just going to go to the SP3. Now it is possible with the 70% reduced ability accuracy inflicted by Magneto that you know, I could inflict a debuff and it would not trigger Conflictor. But we're not going to mess around with that. We're just going to go to the SP3. It doesn't inflict a debuff, just gives me a really big precision buff so that, you know, I'm critting a lot more. And if my white mags was awakened, my buffs and debuffs would all just have a longer duration, which would be super nice. I really hope to get this guy awakened at some point. But yeah, I mean, this SP3 is not going to do the insane damage that the Red Magneto SP3 does. And there you see that a shock slipped through the cracks there, through the cracks of the ability accuracy reduction. And it's ticking me down a little bit, but it's going to trigger so infrequently, it's just really not an issue. All right, the armor break actually helps there. That's also slipped through the cracks when he throws his special attacks, but that's just going to heal me from willpower. And we're just going to be really patient in this fight here. So I've talked a lot about in the past about you know how and you know sometimes my impatience has cost me fights or cost me health or whatever. And the name of the game is just bait out this special. Make sure that you know, we're not messing around with his SP2 because that could do some damage through the block. There it does trigger the unstoppable passive. Fortunately, he doesn't punish. And we're going to end with an SP2. So that's what it should have looked like the first time. Unfortunately, I just like drastically underestimated that fight with Dr. Doom. All right, and then we've got Super Skrull here. Again, this would be just a nightmare, honestly, with Quake bans. But they didn't ban Quake, so we are just going to Quake this big doofus. And, you know, he can get some power gain, but it's just not, it's going to be so negligible here. It's not going to matter. You guys can kind of see what I mean when we get into the fight. He'll never get to an SP1 or anything. And if you, for some reason, screw up and he does get to an SP1, just stop quaking, dex it, and go back to quaking. So here you guys can see no power. He does have the increased power gain on this node, but you know, it just doesn't matter. The one concern quaking scroll is if you either miss a dex and you land a parry by accident, or you land a block and you don't parry him, and he decides to throw a heavy. In duels and in my experience, his heavy is not really something that you can reliably evade or dex evade or any combination of that with Quake. Like ultimately you're going to get punched. Which again isn't the biggest deal if he never gets to a bar of power or anything, but it's just something to keep in mind. So that is it. I can't remember how many fights I had that war. I think it was 10. I'm not going to do the math here. Well, I'll do the math. All right, 3, 3, 4. All right, so we had 10 fights that war. Pretty crazy, but that's the power of Quake. I mean, Quake is just ridiculous. Here I'm just going to cap off my war by expending my final guidance for this boss, for TJ, our boss slayer for the season. And yeah, I don't know, pretty tame stuff. Leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you think. We did end up winning this war. And let me know if your alliance is banning Quake, or if you're not banning Quake. And if you're not banning Quake, I am curious, what's the reasoning behind that? Because to me, it's baffling. But anyway, that's it, guys. I will catch you in the next video.